Today, we are doing Teto's makeup test totally live and genuinely live because I actually haven't tried this makeup at all. I have an idea of what I want to do, but you can kind of see her. We are also joined by Miss Chubby, aka Miss Stinky, aka Miss Tassel, and I have got some big old red contacts in that I almost forgot to buy because I completely forgot that Teto straight up has red eyes, but I got them in time. I did like express shipping from Oh My Kitty. That's usually where I get my contacts. First of all, I have to not f up the makeup because I would like to have this stream end with I do the makeup and then I'm gonna put the whole cosplay on for the first time and record myself seeing myself in the cosplay for the first time for the video with y'all live. So hopefully this ends up okay to where we can do that, because if it's bad, I'm gonna have to do my makeup again. But I have to tell y'all what I have been doing because it's something I never do. So this started because Joe has been reading I think it's the Brandon Sanderson books, and he just finished one of them. And I said, oh, you should read, I told him he should read the book Grendel, because it's my favorite book. I read it in college for a class, and I loved it. I have not reread it since then, but it's my favorite book. And he was like, no, why don't you read a book, and then I'll read your book. And I was like, okay, if I read all of the Game of Thrones books, all of them, will you read Grendel? And he said yes. So I have been reading, I say reading, but I've been listening to an audiobook, which there's just an audiobook version of all of the Game of Thrones books that are out on YouTube. Someone just uploaded them to YouTube, which is probably not correct, but good for me. So I've been listening to the first Game of Thrones book, which is wild because there's some bits of it, there's a lot of bits of it that are just like line for line exactly as they were in the show. But I'm not, okay, I'm like not a reader, okay? I have not like fully read a book since college. And by that I mean like audiobooks, because like I'm a slow visual reader, but like I love me an audiobook. But I haven't even listened to an audiobook since college. I think the only books that the only book series that I ever fully read, like read the whole thing, like physically read it, not an audiobook, read the whole thing, all of it, was Twilight. Because I remember having those books and reading them out of the books. I never watched the very last Twilight movie. I never saw the last one. But I read all the books, so I know what happens. You know what, also, I never saw the last two Hunger Games movies. But I audiobooked those, so I did read those. Underlock V says their eyes have issues, so audio books are good for you. Yeah, I'm a very slow visual reader. Do you miss the college lifestyle? I'm about to graduate in May, and you're scared for the real world. Yes and no. Mostly no. There is a lot to say about like being in college and depending on like your financial situation. Like if you in college, it for most people there's like less responsibility, and then you go into the real world and there's more responsibility. But I still remember the feeling of like when I walked away from my last final, or like my the last final that I ever took. And like I remember walking away from that thinking I'm done. I did it. I don't have to do school anymore for the rest of my life. And I think once you have that feeling, Chantal, you'll be like, like, the real world seems scary. It is scary. It will be scary. The first time I paid taxes, I cried. But it's like, growing into a full adult is so worth. M says, audiobook only, gang. I realized it helped with my ADHD to do the audiobook and then skim it for class. Yeah. I like had to do audiobooks in college. I definitely audiobooked. I had a really cool professor for like writing comp, and we read Grendel and the Hobbit. I don't know if I would recommend Grendel to everybody. I would like Joe to read it because it's my favorite book, but it's a wild book. It's also like one of the oldest fan fictions, technically, because it's technically a fan fiction, and it's not. I mean, there's plenty of things that are older than that, right? But okay, I'm trying not to be too much, but I also halfway don't know what I want to do with this makeup. But I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do a little second eyelid. Yeah, we're doing a higher eyelid, but not going too far. Doing clean nose, just blush on the end of the nose, I think. But I'm really enjoying reading the Game of Thrones books, because it's like, a lot of stuff is like exactly the same as it was in the show, but there's also a lot of extra details, and especially like having seen the entire show and knowing every character and all the stuff and such and all the lore, I would definitely not be able to have like read these books without having seen the show, because there's so many characters that I would never know who the was who, and I would be getting really confused really fast. But because I like know who all the characters are, it's like, oh yeah. M says, right after getting my first adult job, the battery on my car died and I just replaced it with no problem. And I was like, wait, is this what the real world is like? Okay, actually, I have such a funny story about that, because the other day, my older brother called me, and my older brother is only 15 months older than me, okay? We're very close in age. And he called me, and he's just like, Sarah, I just replaced my own car battery for the first time, and I feel like a big man, and I just wanted to tell you about it. And I was like, I've had that same feeling, because the first time I replaced my own car battery, I also felt like a very big man and was very proud. I have a whole story about that. So I have an electric car. But if you don't know, electric cars have both, they have the big battery that runs the motor, and then they have a regular 12-volt car battery like any other car, and that runs like the lights and the radio and stuff. It also runs the starter, particularly in my car. So like, I think it was like 2 winters ago, it was just cold and my car battery went dead, because I think I was mostly working from home at the time, and y'all see her. But I couldn't find anywhere that would replace a car battery on an electric car, because people don't know that it's just a regular goddamn car battery. And I couldn't find... It was really hard for me to find the exact kind of battery that I needed. I even had, like, Joe was, like, in Discord with his friends, and one of his friends works at, like, an O'Reilly's or something. And I told, he told this friend, like, what kind of car I had and what kind of battery it was, and he couldn't find anything in their system. So I knew I couldn't go to like, I couldn't just go to like Advanced Auto Parts and be like, hey bitch, change my car battery. So I had to order a car battery. First of all, I tried ordering one off of Amazon, and they sent me the wrong car battery, but I was able to return it, and then I was able to order it from, like, through returning it from Amazon, I found out who was hosting that listing on Amazon, and I was able to go to their website and find the battery that I specifically needed, and then I ordered it, and it came, and then I replaced it, and I was so proud of myself, and it was such a relief to get that changed, because it was like a while before I could do that. I feel like I should do, I'm so unsure about what I want to do with this makeup. I want it to be like simpler than I normally do, or it I don't know, y'all. I feel like I need something. I also just messed that up. Well, now I have to do this part. Layla Martin says, I've gone back to school since I couldn't finish before. And let me tell you, you don't miss it. It hurts giving up the freedom of no school. Yeah, that's exactly my thought. Like, as I've said, I've been going to ballet classes, and even just that, most days I'm just like, I don't want to go. I want to stay home. I want to sit here and knit and listen to Game of Thrones. Oh, also, I re-taught myself how to knit, y'all. I finally actually kind of learned how to knit. And the reason I did that, I'll show you what I made. So Teto has these, like, I'm probably not going to be on the screen with this, but Teto has, if you look, you can see her socks. Boop. So I knitted some little boot toppers. They're not full socks, but I knitted them. And I knitted them because I started to crochet them. And I remembered that I can't crochet anymore because it makes my left hand hurt so bad that I just can't do it. Friendship ended with crochet. I retaught myself how to knit, and by retaught, I mean my grandma tried to teach me how to knit when I was a little girl, and then my friend Alyssa taught me at KatsuCon last year, and then I finally actually sat down and actually did something with it, and I learned that it doesn't hurt my hand like crochet does. So friendship ended with crochet. Knitting is king. And I specifically know that the hand thing was a thing that I was always going to run into, because I know it's like a thing in my family. My mom and my aunt and my grandma all have like carpal tunnel problems. And crochet is just one of those things that can just give you carpal tunnel. And for me, it's on my left hand, and not like, it's not the hand that I hold the hook in, it's the way I hold the tension on the yarn. And I know there's other ways to do it, but I just like, I can't get used to the other way. Also, by the way, if she starts touching the mic without me noticing, please tell me. Can y'all hear her? Ma'am. Quit it. I'm trying not to be too much with this, but I want glitter. We'll do... There's gold in the cosplay. We can do some gold glitter. Like, when I first... I don't think I've ever said this. I first taught myself how to crochet in, like, 2019, and I made that scarf that's up there as decoration, and there's a unfinished Afghan that's on the other shelf on the other side. And I made a couple hats. And this was like, you know, before the pandemic happened. So it was like very end of 2019, very, very early 2020. I taught myself how to crochet. And I really liked it. It didn't make my hands hurt back then. But then when I was doing the strawberries, it was becoming very evident that it makes my hands hurt. Um, and I got pretty far into making part of a boot topper and crocheting it, and I was like, F this, I need to actually learn how to knit. What is the name of the palette you use? Okay, here's what I have on the table. I have the ColourPop Main Squeeze. Using the reds from that. I also have this very old, like, mini Huda Beauty palette that I got from, like, an Ipsy subscription that I used to have. My fave. The Trixie and Kimchi palette. I just used the glitter from this. This doesn't have any red in it. Or does it? No, it doesn't have any red. This also a tiny Tarte blush that was from an Ipsy. Honestly, this dumb little very red Huda Beauty palette is like, has like way higher quality shadows than this one, but this one has more red. But this is the ColourPop one. Red is a hard color, but the ColourPop ones are just fine. Listener Ben says, the reason I started knitting was I wanted the super long Doctor Who scarf. I eventually made the short version 9 feet long, and it was one of my favorite things I've ever made. I was actually earlier just thinking, like, now I have the power to make the Tom Baker scarf. And I might do that eventually in my life, now that I know how to knit. That's just a thing that I would like to have in my house. Because it's just a wonderful thing. I rarely ever talk about Doctor Who because I have a very complicated relationship with Doctor Who, but I was talking to some friends the other week, and Doctor Who came up somehow, and I never talk about it, but as soon as people start talking about it, it's like shocking how much knowledge of Doctor Who will just come out of my brain that is just still in there. My Doctor Who phase came in 2008. I was in 8th grade. The new series had started just a couple years prior. The new series started in 2005, I believe. And back then, BBC America was airing Doctor Who a year late from what had just aired in England. So we were on BBC America, Rose's second season was airing, but in the UK, Martha's season had just finished. So I realized that because back then you could watch episodes of Doctor Who in like 10-minute parts on YouTube. And so that's how I watched Doctor Who. That's how I watched all of season 3, series 3 of Doctor Who, of the new series. I watched it all in tiny parts on YouTube on an iPod Touch in 2008. And I got horrendously bullied at school because I would not stop talking about Doctor Who. I would not stop. And oh my god, my biggest bully I ever had was that year, and it was about Doctor Who. And the thing that sticks out to me most, season 3, series 3 of Doctor Who, Martha's season is one of, I love Rose, but that season with Martha, series 3, is one of the best things ever put on television ever. The way that story is woven is just amazing and beautiful, and Martha is amazing and beautiful, and her character arc, I loved Rose. I don't dislike Rose. I love Rose. But I love Martha so much more because she got such a amazing character arc Martha's a severely underrated companion. Is she underrated? Does everybody just talk about Amy or whatever? I also don't really care for... That's the big thing with Doctor Who, is I don't care for any of the show after Russell T Davies left the show. Like, Russell T Davies was the one that told that amazing story. And nothing after it can compare. Which is almost unfair. Like, he set the bar so high that nothing anybody did after him would ever compare to that. And I have not seen anything from Doctor Who post Russell T Davies that I was like, yeah, that touches my heart the same way that this story did. Nothing else. And I saw Matt Smith's first maybe two seasons, maybe. I saw a bit of him. I saw up to the bit with Rory being the boy that waited. And none of that is anywhere near as memorable as a single episode of the third series. Bitter Floof says Stephen Moffat wishes he could write as well as Russell T Davies. He sure does. And like, Moffat is a great writer when it's something short. Like, Blink is a great episode. Blink is a great episode. Blink is not an entire season with a weaving storyline. Oh, and then, like, the River Song stuff. I got to that stuff. I wanted... Like, I've seen not a ton of old Doctor Who, but I've seen a bit. And my favorite old companion was Romana. And... because she was also a Time Lord. And as far as I know, Romana has never come back in the new series. And when River Song came up, I was wishing for her to be Romana really bad. And she wasn't. And so I was disappointed. If they brought her back, I don't know if I would watch it then, but I have not watched it in years. That's why I don't talk about it a lot, because when you say you like Doctor Who, people, I guess, assume you're, like, currently into it. And I'm very much so not. But I am hugely into the Tennant and Eccleston seasons. And halfway have them memorized. Back then I could have, like, for a long time, I could tell you, like, the names and numbers of each episode and what happened in each of them. So I'm going to tell you the story of how the worst bullying over Doctor Who, the height of the me getting bullied over Doctor Who in 8th grade. So, it was for, like, literature class, lit class. We had to do a presentation, and it could be on literally anything you wanted, okay? Literally anything you wanted. And so, of course, I was like, I want to do this presentation on Doctor Who. And I'm in 8th grade, it's 2008, and I live in the South, and nobody knows what the Doctor Who is. But I wanted to do it on Doctor Who. And the teacher comes around, and she asks each of us what we want to do it on, and then she writes it on a piece of paper. And she gets to me, and I knew that the girl that had been bullying me was going to make fun of me if I picked Doctor Who. And so the teacher comes up, and I very softly say, I want to do it on Doctor Who. Very quietly. And this bitch, we'll call her Marina. Marina, from the other side of the room, is like, what are you doing it on, Sarah? And then now everybody's looking at me, and I say, Doctor Who. And she's like, what? And I said, Doctor Who, it's a TV show. And he's like, And then I got too traumatized by that. And when the teacher was about to walk away, I looked up at her and I said, actually, can I do it on Stonehenge? And so I did my report on Stonehenge. even though I could right now give you an entire PowerPoint presentation on just the episode Gridlock, and it would be a great time. And so I put together, cut to, you know, whenever that was due, I do a whatever presentation on Stonehenge, because I didn't care. My heart wasn't in it. I don't care. Stonehenge is cool, but it's not Doctor Who, okay? And then this other kid, the girl that bullied me, I'll never forget this. She did hers on, known Nazi, Coco Chanel. So, this other kid, this boy, okay, he goes up and he does this presentation on the game cricket. Like, the sports ball game, cricket. And he clearly really cared about cricket and did a really good presentation on cricket. And the teacher stops after his presentation and she's like, see, kids, that's what makes a really good presentation, is you can see how much he cares about the source material. And that's why he was able to answer all of your questions about it, because he really cared about the source material. And it was one of the biggest, and I was just like, I should have done it on Doctor Who. I shouldn't have chickened out. And I say this to people all the time. And I have to say it to myself all the time. Because it's something you, especially if you're somebody posting stuff on the internet, you have to constantly be reminding yourself to not cater to people that hate you. I should have done that presentation on Doctor Who. I should not have catered to the girl that just hated me. Trevor's like, the next Sarah video that comes out will be her rewriting that presentation from 8th grade to be about Doctor Who and presenting it with us. Yes. I've actually thought other people have done like 8-hour full Doctor Who reviews. I literally at some point like put in my Google Docs, do a 10-hour Doctor Who review, Sarah. And I was just like, I have other that I need to do. Sarah Doctor Who presentation stream. Okay, the presentation is season 3 is one of the best pieces of television to ever be put on television, along with it in accordance also with Torchwood, the first 2, I think, seasons of Torchwood. Those and counting what, even if you take series 1 and 2 out, the first 2 seasons of Torchwood and the 3rd season of Doctor Who, that little package, best thing ever put on television. And that's not even like, it's like gold is season 3, silver is season 2, bronze is season 1. They're all winners, but they just got better, and then they got a little goofier when Donna came around. I did like Donna, but I have not ever revisited her seasons the way I have revisited the first 3. Yeah, was it only 2? When does Jack run? Like, because there's a, like, they correspond. Like, Jack leaves in Torchwood when he goes, like, you hear the TARDIS sound in Torchwood, which was so hyped. That, like, the crossing of 2 different shows? Russell T. Davies! Nothing Moffat has done has ever lived up to what Davies did. He can't. And that's the entire presentation. All right, y'all. We're gonna put this cosplay on. All right. Are y'all ready? Here we go, beachies. Let's get some breads. Are y'all ready for this wig? I'm gonna hit record on everything. Then I'll put the wig on. All right. Camera 2 rolling. Audio. Rolling. Feel like I need another light, but camera 1 rolling. You can't record. Streaming. All right. It's time for the wig. I'm gonna try not to look in the mirror. I'm gonna use my tiny mirror to like fix my bangs. I'm gonna try not to look at OBS. because I wanna see Teto for the first time myself. Okay, I'm gonna fix my bangs in my tiny mirror. Make sure it's on my head right. Okay, are y'all ready? Am I ready? All right. Oh, yo! Ah! Also, look at this. Look at the. Hold on. The bounce on this. The lighting is gonna be bad, but y'all. Here, I'll just turn this one around. I went oh no over there because this bottom ribbon isn't actually fully like attached yet. Teto was always my favorite. Okay, and this is something I have wanted to put on my body since I was 17 years old. The wig specifically, obviously. This design didn't exist when I was 17. But thank y'all for coming in the stream. It was a little shorter, but it's a makeup stream. Oh, somebody says the Flutter Street. I love the wrong side. The Flutter Street sleeve is life. They're so good. But thanks for coming to see this moment with me. You'll see it in the actual video. Thanks for watching this year-old Patreon stream re-upload. If you want to see the Patreon streams actually live or in full, then you can check out my Patreon because you can get access for just $1 a month. And a big thank you to Mel, or Pocket Leaves, who's editing these streams down for me so I can focus on my main channel videos. You can check out Mel's work on either their channel Pocket Leaves or Pocket Cons, and sometimes you'll even see me in their con vlogs. It's a special occurrence when it happens. But as always, if you're just watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, then you're supporting this channel too. So thank you. Bye!